The river should have been silent that morning, sealed under a skin of gray ice and drifting snow, but Chief Petty Officer Marcus Hale heard something that didn't belong to winter. A thin, broken sound. Not wind. Not cracking ice. A cry too small to fight the cold. Marcus stopped running. At 36, the Navy SEAL moved with quiet control, breath steady, mind trained to filter noise from threat. But this sound cut through him. He stepped off the trail, boots sinking into powder, eyes scanning the frozen riverbank below. There, a plastic storage crate, half submerged where the current had eaten through the ice. The sound came again. Marcus slid down the embankment, ignoring the burn in his knees as he hit the edge. Black water pushed against jagged ice. He waded in without hesitation, cold knifing through his boots, and dragged the crate free. The lid snapped open under his grip. Inside, 3 tiny puppies trembled in a knot of soaked fur and bones. One dark as midnight, one sandy with oversized paws, one pale gray with a pink nose turned blue from cold. Marcus swore under his breath, voice shaking more than his hands. "I got you. I got you." He tucked them inside his thermal jacket against his chest and climbed back up the bank. Their bodies were barely warm. Their breathing shallow, uneven. Too light. Too fragile. In the truck, heater blasting, he rubbed them gently the way he'd been trained to treat hypothermia. One pup whimpered. Another twitched. The smallest barely moved. "Stay with me," he murmured like he had to wounded men on foreign soil. He hadn't planned on caring about anything outside orders and objectives. Caring complicated things. Caring made losses permanent. But as he drove toward the nearest vet clinic, the smallest puppy lifted its head weakly and pressed against his hand. And something inside Marcus, locked down for years, cracked just enough to let the cold air in. Whoever had left them hadn't just abandoned animals. They had given up. Marcus tightened his jaw and kept driving through the snow. Not today, he thought. Not on my watch. The address came from a faded receipt wedged inside the crate's lining, ink smeared but readable. 2 days after the rescue, with the puppy stable at the clinic, Marcus followed a narrow forest road to a sagging house buried in snow. The place looked like it had exhaled and never breathed in again. Inside, the air smelled of dust and old smoke. Dishes sat untouched in the sink. A recliner faced a blank television. Empty pill bottles lined the windowsill like silent witnesses. On the wall hung a photograph, a broad-shouldered man in a fire department shirt, grinning beside a woman and a young boy. The man's name appeared on unopened mail scattered across the table. Daniel Mercer. Firefighter. Widower. Marcus moved slowly through the house, boots quiet on warped wood. In a back room he found a dog bed, chewed toys, 3 small collars still stiff from the store. The puppies hadn't been strays. They'd been someone's last responsibility. In the bedroom, a notebook lay open on the nightstand. Marcus didn't mean to read it, but the first line held him there. "I keep failing at staying." The entries were dated over months. Sleepless nights. Missed work. Apologies never spoken. Guilt over a wife lost in a highway accident. Shame over drinking. Fear that his son, now living with relatives, was better off without him. One line was underlined twice. "Old Cedar Bridge was our favorite place. Maybe it can be the last thing I see that feels good." Marcus closed the journal slowly. He knew that kind of thinking. The quiet logic that twisted pain into permission. Outside, wind rattled the loose shutters. Snow drifted across the porch, already trying to erase footprints. Marcus stood there a long time, jaw tight. He had pulled 3 lives from freezing water. But the man who put them there was still out in the cold. Marcus grabbed the journal, heading for his truck as the sky darkened. Some missions didn't come from command. Some found you anyway. And this one wasn't over. Fog wrapped Old Cedar Bridge in a gray hush, the river below moving black and slow between ice-crusted banks. Marcus stepped onto the wooden planks, a crate tucked carefully in his arms. Halfway across stood a man gripping the railing. Daniel Mercer looked smaller than the man in the photograph. His firefighter's build had thinned, shoulders bent under invisible weight. His beard was untrimmed, eyes hollow, fixed on the water below. Marcus stopped several yards back. "I'm not here to fight you," he said quietly. "I brought something that belongs to you." Daniel let out a brittle laugh. "I don't have anything left." Marcus knelt and opened the crate. 3 puppies stumbled onto the bridge, legs wobbly but determined. The dark one barked, a tiny, defiant sound swallowed by fog. Daniel turned. The sound that left him broke apart halfway to a sob. He dropped to his knees, hands shaking as the puppies reached him, noses nudging, tails wagging with all the strength they had. I thought letting them go would make it easier," he choked. Footsteps echoed from the trail behind them. A teenage boy emerged from the mist, breath clouding, eyes red but steady. He stopped when he saw his father on the planks. "Dad." The word hit harder than any shout. Daniel froze. "Liam?" The boy crossed the distance and knelt, wrapping his arms around a man who felt like he might disappear. It wasn't forgiveness. It was refusal. "You don't get to leave," Liam said, voice shaking. "Not without trying." Daniel clung to him, shoulders collapsing as years of held-back grief finally gave way. Marcus stayed back, a steady presence, watching the edge, giving the moment room to breathe. The puppies circled them, small bodies pressing close, grounding them in warmth and life. After a long time, Daniel nodded weakly, pulling back from the railing. One step. Then another. Away from the edge. The fog thinned as if the world itself had been holding its breath. Marcus exhaled slowly. Sometimes saving a life didn't look like pulling someone from water. Sometimes it meant showing them they were still needed on the shore.